Step outside this week around 9 p.m. local time and look about 1/3 of the way up from the south horizon. You will spot Sirius, the dog star, shining brilliantly in the constellation Canis Major, known for its intense brightness. Sirius is a bright star in our night sky. Despite its relatively modest size of 1.7 times the diameter of the Sun and twice its mass, Sirius stands out because it's only 8.5 light-years away, making it a close stellar neighbor. However, its brightness and behavior have puzzled astronomers for nearly 2 centuries, leaving many questions still unanswered. Frederick Bessel, a famous mathematician, became the director of an astronomical observatory at just 25 years old in 1809. One night, while observing the stars, Sirius noticed something unusual, though not immediately. Back then, astronomy didn't involve modern tools or high-tech gadgets. It was mostly about creating and checking star catalogs and dealing with a lot of paperwork. Nowadays, astronomers spend a lot of time coding and working with computers, but the basics of the field remain rooted in these historical practices. Bessel's work took time and patience. He examined data that stretched back 80 years, including records from before he was born. Imagine the excitement of going through old books and making discoveries. For 25 years, Bessel compared old star catalogs with newer ones and checked his own instruments. This careful work took an extra decade, so it wasn't until 1844, when Bessel was 60, that he shared his important findings with the world. In astronomy, progress often takes time, and Bessel's dedication truly paid off. Frederick Bessel observed something strange about Sirius. Its right ascension was changing. If you're wondering what ascension is, think of it like the sky's version of Earth's latitude and longitude. Just as we use longitude and latitude to locate places on Earth, right ascension and declination help us pinpoint stars in the sky. Right ascension is like the sky's longitude, and declination is its latitude. At first, Bessel's observation didn't seem so unusual. Binary star systems, which have 2 stars orbiting each other, often show changes in right ascension. But Sirius was known to be a single star, not a binary system. How could it be wobbling on its own? Bessel's most logical conclusion was that Sirius had a hidden companion, something he couldn't see. In his words, the existence of numberless visible stars can prove nothing against the existence of numberless invisible ones. Bessel was right about the companion, but it wasn't invisible or dark. It was just very small and faint, too close to Sirius to be seen through its bright glare. It would take 18 more years before anyone could actually see this companion. The discovery was made by Elvin Clark, a hobbyist astronomer who loved finding new binary systems. He didn't initially realize the significance of his find, he just enjoyed sharing his discoveries with fellow astronomers. This discovery provided the first photographic evidence of Sirius's companion. While the brighter star was known as Sirius A, the dimmer companion was named Sirius B. Before the official names were settled, Sirius A was often called the dog star because it's the brightest star in the constellation Canis Major, or the big dog. Consequently, Sirius B earned the nickname the puppy. The mystery didn't end with Sirius B's discovery. Even though Sirius B was dim, which wasn't unusual for stars, the real puzzle emerged with more data. Back in Alan Clark's time, there was still much to learn about stars and their orbits. Frederick Bessel had already told us that Sirius B's orbital cycle was about 50 years, but knowing just the cycle length wasn't enough. Astronomers needed to understand the size of the orbit, its shape, and its orientation. To get this complete picture, they'd have to observe Sirius B through most of its orbital cycle. Patience is key in astronomy. As more data came in, scientists realized that Sirius B didn't fit the pattern seen in the HR diagram, a key tool for the stellar classification. An HR diagram plots stars' brightness against their color, which reflects the energy output and surface temperature. This diagram reveals patterns that help categorize stars into stages of their life cycle. For instance, the main sequence includes stars, burning hydrogen, while later stages include giant stars. Given Sirius B's dimness, scientists expect it to fall into the category of red dwarfs, stars with low mass and low brightness. Red dwarfs typically have about 1/3 of the mass of the Sun, but in 1910, Louis Boss published a detailed star catalog, the preliminary general catalog of 6,188 stars for the epoch 1900. This catalog provided the crucial information needed to determine the masses of Sirius stars. The shocking result? Sirius B's mass was nearly the same as the Sun's, about 3 times higher than expected. This unexpected finding left astronomers scratching their heads. As you can imagine, astronomers were baffled by the new data. They speculated that perhaps some unknown mechanism could make a star colder despite its high mass, but that theory didn't hold up. 4 years later, Walter Adams measured Sirius B's surface temperature and found it to be a scorching 25,000 Kelvin, over 4 times hotter than that of the Sun. This wasn't a cold red star, it was blue and extremely hot. Surely there had been an error in the data. But Walter's findings were confirmed and verified. Sirius B was officially a mystery once again. The only way it could be both dim and hot was if it was incredibly small. By 1914, the Stefan Boltzmann law was well established, and it showed that if a star's temperature is high but its energy output is low, its surface area must be tiny. This meant Sirius B had the mass of the Sun squeezed into a size comparable to Earth. Imagine compressing a mountain into a semi-trailer. It's mind-boggling. Famous astronomer Arthur Eddington famously responded with, "Shut up, don't talk nonsense." He later regretted his blunt comment, but at the time, there was no known mechanism to explain such extreme densities. It wasn't until a decade later, with the advent of quantum mechanics, that scientists would begin to understand how such dense objects could exist. Sirius B wasn't alone in its uniqueness. As astronomers continued to explore, they discovered other stars with similar characteristics, leading to the new identification of a new category known as white dwarfs. These are not active stars, but rather stellar remnants, what remains after low-mass stars have exhausted their fuel and shed their outer layers. It's like playing an astronomical game of whack-a-mole, where solving one mystery reveals another. Sirius A, often considered the papa dog of the pair, was actually less massive than Sirius B in the past. When Sirius B was active, it was about 5 times the mass of the Sun, or 2.5 times more massive than Sirius A. Over time, Sirius B lost much of its mass, shedding its outer layers to become the white dwarf we see today. Think of Sirius B as a skeleton rather than a playful puppy. Lower mass stars like Sirius B gradually lose their outer layers over time, a process that will eventually happen to our Sun in about 4 to 5 billion years. Instead of a dramatic explosion, these stars simply fizzle out, leaving behind a white dwarf surrounded by a glowing nebula. The nebula around Sirius B has long since disappeared. The white dwarf's ultraviolet light initially ionizes the surrounding gas, making it glow, but as the white dwarf cools and its UV output diminishes, the gas becomes neutral and fades from view. This process makes the nebula invisible within about 50,000 years. Sirius B shed its outer layers approximately 126 million years ago, so its nebula was gone before humans even evolved. However, if we rewind the clock to around 130 million years ago, Sirius B was still in its giant phase, vastly larger and not yet having shed any mass. During that time, Sirius A would have been inside Sirius B, as the giant star would have been about 40,000 times wider than its current size. Sirius B's transformation from a giant star to a white dwarf has led to some of the most intriguing mysteries in astronomy. We know about contact binaries where stars touch and exchange material, but Sirius B's situation takes this to the extreme. How could one star survive inside another, and why are its orbits so elliptical when tidal forces should have made them circular? What do you think about the challenges in explaining these stellar phenomena? Comment down below with your thoughts and theories.